Speaking part 5, comparison and persuasion. I'm going to mention two things here that are going to be very important for you to understand for this question, because most of you lose marks on this question. So please listen up. The first thing is, this is 60 seconds. So it is very hard for you to say all the points. It's going to be a little bit rushed, but you want to try your best to say all the points that you see in the picture. Point number 2 is, when I say all the points, I mean not only your choice, but also the other choice. There are two choices here, we'll talk about that, but make sure to remember that. You want to talk about all the points. It's going to be a comparison question. So comparison means you don't just talk about your stuff, but you talk about the other stuff as well, whoever you are debating with. Okay? So remember those two important themes. Now, let's look at the question and what it's all about. So it says you're planning a vacation to a nearby city. You're considering either a plane or train for the round trip. Pick one of these two options that you see on your screen. On the next page, you will persuade your friends to consider your opinion versus theirs. Makes sense? You gotta pick one because you're doing a round trip. So you pick one here, you have 60 seconds. This is just the preparation time. In this question, you have the longest amount of preparation time, just so you know. So in 60 seconds, you pick something that is very easy for you to explain. For me, airplane is obviously easy. I have all these points, simple, short, quick, so I'll use that. Or you could also pick the train, whatever floats your boat. After the 60 seconds, what's going to happen is your option will be displayed on screen and another option will show up. The prompt will say your friends would prefer carpooling with others instead. Convince them why your option would make more sense. So now you have to look at the airplane's points, your points, and compare it with the carpooling points and tell your friend why your option is better than theirs. Here again, you get another 60 seconds to prepare. So you have basically 2 minutes of preparation. Your speaking time is going to be 60 seconds. So it's going to be 1 minute speaking where you have to then talk about everything. If you chose the train, you would have this option, and carpooling would be the option next to it. Okay? So if you don't pick anything, if you don't choose anything, the computer will choose one for you. So before your 60 seconds initially finish, make sure to pick something. Once again, this is broken into 3 parts. Preparation time, 60 seconds, you pick one option. Then preparation time, where your displayed option shows up next to the computer's option. Last 60 seconds, third part, is where you're speaking and convincing the other person that your option is better. And here's the template for speaking part 5. You want to start with hey, hello, hi there. Hello and hi there are both formal and informal. You can use them for any. But hey is more casual, informal, and especially suited for this question that we saw, where we're talking to friends. Now, glad to talk to you again. You're not going to use this with your mom or dad or family or friends. It is formal and you want to use it with your bosses, colleagues, and so on. You're going to say next, deciding between this and this option is certainly a tough choice. We're going to add some words relevant to our situation, which we'll discuss. Nevertheless, it's clear that, and nevertheless, really good connector moving to your choice. This is how you introduce your choice. It's also advanced. It is clear that something, and name that option, literally take the name, the train, carpool, whatever, don't say option A or B, provides a more advantageous option. Or you could say it is clear that whatever is especially beneficial in terms of, and if you say is beneficial in terms of, then here you would have to mention the very first point, which could be a really good start, because right here you would mention especially beneficial in terms of the cost saving if you look at the cost here and there. So this can help you get into the very first point right away, which is why this could be a good choice. But you could also say provides a more advantageous option and mention your first point in the next sentence. Do you find, after you give all those arguments, you mention the comparison, the points from the picture, at the end you say, do you find my arguments convincing? Or you can say, do you think my points make sense? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts would go with everybody, formal or informal. You don't need to say goodbye, take care, because it's, again, assuming that the person is now going to respond to you in a real life conversation. Also, there is going to be very limited time when you try to finish this. If you're doing this right, you will struggle with the time. Because if you're doing this right, you'll try to say everything that is in the pictures, right? So you want to finish quicker? Let me know your thoughts, and that's it. Now you might ask, why is there so much intro and conclusion? Why is there nothing, no guiding words in between? There are two reasons. Well, there are many reasons for that. To summarize, when you have words in between, you can use words like, hey, this has this, nevertheless, that has this has this, however, that has that, or this is better or more superior than the other. So you could use comparison words, and you have to use comparison words. The problem is, if I give you formulated words, sometimes people focus too much on those words and they're not focusing on the points. What I really want you to do is make sure to use the points carefully. For example, if I give you the word although, you can use it by saying, although the carpooling is cheaper than the train, we can benefit from having more socialization opportunities, right? So you could use although there effectively. You could also say, the train is more pricey, but you can socialize with more people. So that is something that can flow naturally. You could also say, while the price of the train is this, the biggest benefit is you can socialize more. So there are so many ways to say this, and if you focus on speaking naturally instead of using a formulated connector in this part, you will fare better. Because a lot of people struggle with the time, and there's so many points here to look at. Your brain processing will be at its max for this question. So it's hard to recommend, hey, use these exact words. But if you are a fan of exact words, there are some here that I have shown in case you really need a guide. So we'll get into the answer. This is the sample answer, and here we're assuming that train is our selected option, carpooling is the other option that the computer has chosen. We're going to start with, hey guys, how are you all doing? And from here, and also in the next few questions, you will see some capitalized words. That's because this is where you want to edit the template slightly based on your requirements. You're talking to your friends, multiple people, which is rare. Usually you talk to one person, so it's usually, hey mom, hey dad, hey Bob. But because it's multiple, you want to include this part, how are you all doing? It's also informal, so we're saying hey, and then how are you all doing? Looking at the template, hey is the one we selected, and we're adding now, how are you all doing? Now we're going to use the deciding between, and that's our next point. Deciding between taking the train and carpooling is certainly a tough choice. Those are your two options, so we named them. Now this is what you're adding here, considering our vacation. Okay, so make sure you are mentioning the situation in the question, considering this scenario, considering our vacation. Perfect. Nevertheless, this is the template again, and nevertheless, the train provides a more advantageous option. That's your introduction. Now you're going to say, firstly, you can say firstly, mainly, primarily, whatever. Firstly, while carpooling may seem flexible. So we are, again, talking about, look, there's freedom to stop. You can have no strict departures or arrival times. That's why it's flexible. So we are touching on 2 points here by using the word flexible. It lacks a structured schedule, and which can lead to delays and unpredictability. So we're talking about, you have this, but this is the problem, okay? We don't want that. In contrast, so this is not part of the template here. As I said, you don't want to really rely on every single connector and struggle to use those in between the points. But if you really want to, if you're really struggling, this might help you. Using words like in contrast here, and then also here, their addition to the existing template. So they have a good flow, and you can easily use that here. For example, in contrast, the longer train time will allow us to socialize with more people compared to carpooling. Once again, you'll see in every sentence and everything we're trying to say, we're trying to add as many points as we can. So we're saying there's a longer time, and you can also socialize due to a longer travel time. These 2 points are covered in this sentence, and we went from this side here to our side, the train, by talking about in contrast, and now we shifted. Now you also have additional points. You say also, although the train, and this is a good way to start, again, a complex sentence, although The train can be more pricey, so you would have times when your points are negative, and the examiner will put you in those situations. So you admit, look, I have this problem, like the train can be more pricey, at least we will have this, so there's the benefit. We will be more organized with the stops. Instead of relying on the schedules of the group we are carpooling with. Because you can see they have the carpooling, you will be meeting new people in carpooling, and there's no strict departure times. Train would be more professional, you will have more stops, and it's all pre-planned. Okay, you know I panic about being punctual, and I certainly cannot rely on complete strangers to cure that anxiety of mine. This sentence is when you have said everything else. This is not part of the points here, but you have now said everything. You have addressed all the points and you have extra time, and that is the position you want to be in, because now you can give more logic or shine some more light or add some more variety of expressions like you have here. You have anxiety about schedules. That's a good change instead of talking about just the points, and if you get that chance or time to do it, definitely do something expressive like this. Do you guys is added because it is relevant to this question. So the template says, do you find my arguments convincing? Now I'm talking to friends, so I have added, do you guys think my points make sense? And points make sense is the second version that I have used here. Let me know your thoughts. And that's it. You finish up in 1 minute saying everything from each side. Okay? Let's jump into part 6. This is more of a normal question. We're back to our norms. You have preparation time, 60 seconds. Speaking time, 60 seconds as well. More preparation time because you really have to choose one of the two options given, and it's a long question. So it says, your spouse loves a new car at the dealership, but is threatening the salesperson to walk away if he does not reduce the price. The salesperson is adamant about the price. So it's usually those two conflicting situations here, and that's why this question is called responding to a difficult situation. Here you usually have to convince one person to do something that the other person wants, and it's an argument between them, and you're kind of the mediator, the voice of reason, convincing people here. So you can either convince your spouse to accept the stated price or negotiate with the salesperson to reduce the price. And that's a difficult situation. Now, in these kinds of questions, you're always trying to make someone upset, right? So if you tell your spouse you have to accept the stated price, they don't want that, but you're forcing them to do that. So you have to give good reasonings. You have to also apologize sometimes. Look, I know you don't want it. I'm sorry, but you got to understand that. So those are some themes here, and you are being judged on how you can emotionally convince your partner, your colleague, whoever. Your emotional intelligence will be judged with your tone and your usage of words, and in terms of how convincing you can be, how you can reason with the other person. So the template will show you exactly how to do that. But before I show you the template, the reason I'm mentioning this is because everything that I just mentioned happens 80% of the times in speaking task 6, this question. However, there are times when you get a very different question. Sometimes it could be something that you have not expected at all, and it will be different in every exam. For example, it could be something like, there are 2 possible options for people in the summers. It could be a trip to the Maldives, or it could be a cruise. Convince this person or this group that the trip to Maldives is good, and convince the other that the other option is good. It could also be about suggestions. There are 2 options your kid is choosing for summer camp. Convince him of this option or that option. So in that case, you would make suggestions, which are different than being put in a difficult situation where you have to apologize. When you're making suggestions, you don't have to apologize. So in those cases, if that happens, first of all, you are one of the unlucky people who would be faced with something new. But if you are one of those people, no problem. All you gotta do is adjust the template slightly. Let's have a look at the template here. So you have, in speaking 6, you have a combination of introduction and then focusing on emotional cues, like it's a difficult situation, but I need to tell you. It's a complex situation, but it's crucial for you to understand. And I apologize if this comes across as whatever. If you're making suggestions, for example, you would have to fix it and change the template slightly. You would use words like, hey, hello, perfect, that's fine. This might be a difficult decision if you choose the summer camp or the other, but I can suggest you that you pick this one. You can also use "it is a unique situation" or a complex situation if the question warrants that, but in case of a summer camp, I could say it is definitely a confusing choice, but it's crucial for you to work on your piano skills, so go to the piano summer camp. And this one I would eliminate because you are not apologizing if you're making suggestions, so here I would use something appropriate to the scenario, which would be, in a summer camp scenario, I would say something like, if you learn pianos now in the summer camp, you will be 10 steps ahead of your other classmates, and so on. So you want to adjust the template based on the scenarios, but fortunately, it doesn't happen a lot. Most students will get something like this, where you are upsetting another person and you have to apologize. Okay? Assuming that is the case, let's have a look at the template. You can start with "hey," informal. "Hello" would be more formal. This might be a difficult discussion, but I need to be direct with you. And this is how you start, and now you give your reasoning. Always give reasoning why you are telling the other person to go against their will. It is a, or an, it is, in this case, it is a complex situation, a unique situation. If you want to use other words for "an," like an unprecedented situation, feel free to do that. But it's crucial for you to understand that, and then add another point. This is going to be your mark for your emotional intelligence and tone appropriateness. I apologize if this comes across as upsetting, but my intentions are rooted in your well-being, or my intentions are to help you out, or whatever is relevant to the situation. Let's have a look at the template and the answer to understand how to plug and play. We start with "honey," and there are some changes here. Honey is capital, tough is capital, hour is capital. These are the things I'm slightly adjusting in the template because we're talking to our honey, we're talking to our wife. So if you see, or husband, by the way. So if you see the start, it's "hey, hello." You wouldn't do that in a car dealership with your spouse. You would just start with "honey," "dear," whatever you say to your loved one. And you're not even going to say "how are you," right? Because it's based on this question, that does not fit. So make sure to adjust it according to the question. So we're just going to say "honey." Now, the next part of the template, we are copying that. This might be a difficult discussion, as is. This might be a difficult discussion, but I need to be direct with you. I believe we should try to negotiate with the salesperson to reduce the price, as it benefits us in the long run. In the intro, in the first few seconds, you mention your opinion very clearly, be very straightforward, and later we'll give the reasoning. But again, before we start giving the reasoning, we have to reason with that person and show them that you understand it's hard, but please listen to me. Now here the template says, it's a complex, unique situation. Really depends on what kind of question you're getting. In this question, when you're at a dealership, it's not really complex or unique. You're just buying a car, so it's not really that unique. I would say it's a tough situation, so that's something I have adjusted as well. And it's crucial for you to understand. Please use these words. This shows that you are convincing and you're trying to get your point across in a very polite way. The importance of negotiating calmly, good adverb. Walking away, and here you start with your reasoning. Walking away might not be the best strategy since this is a car you really love, and it's better to explore all possibilities before making a final decision. Politely presenting a counteroffer. So again, this is another reason, another point that you're adding to back up your point of view. Politely presenting a counteroffer or asking for additional perks like free maintenance or accessories could make the deal more appealing. Okay, so this is almost like an alternative. Hey, maybe we can do this, and your spouse might really like that idea. Now here is your mark for your emotional intelligence, so make sure to apologize or show that you have that guilt because you are not choosing what your spouse wants. I apologize if this comes across as upsetting, but my intentions are rooted in our well-being. So the template says your well-being, and in this case, you both are buying the car, so it's our well-being. I want to ensure we make a financially sound decision while still keeping you happy with your choice. So in this case, I added this last sentence in case you have additional time, and you can use something like this to back up everything you have said a little better. Okay, so pretty straightforward here. Make sure to include emotional reasoning using the template. You will be marked highly on that. Look, the question here was about explaining a difficult situation, and this one was about comparison and persuasion. So those are the question types. If you're not persuading, just talking about your side, and if you're not emotionally convincing the other person, showing understanding, and you're just talking, making sentences, you lose marks. Let's go to speaking part 7. We're at the second last question, which is usually a debate. And here it says actors and singers should be paid the same as day-to-day workers. To what extent do you agree with this statement? In this question and in question number 1, these are the only two questions, questions 1 and 7, where you have to speak for 90 seconds. Every other question you speak for 60 seconds. Remember that. Fortunately, another easy thing to remember is because both of these questions are 90 seconds, you are targeting 3 points. So you're going to give your opinion here and then use 3 points. How? Let's have a look at speaking 7. First, you start by saying the dialogue surrounding the topic of, idea, issue, action of, whatever the case might be, is very thought-provoking, which means it forces you to think, baffling or confounding, whatever you want to say, whatever floats easily on your tongue. I am firmly persuaded that, give your opinion here, firmly persuaded that this is a better option. Important, highly important to note, you have to pick one side. You cannot pick both. You always have to choose one side. Please never say both options are good. Okay? So you pick one side and then you have to make 3 points supporting that side. So to begin with, or firstly, give your first point. Moreover, furthermore, next point. Additionally, or in addition, next point. These 3 points, just like part 1, will take most of your time. And then your conclusion, in conclusion, and here we use words like in conclusion or to conclude, because it's almost like writing an essay or doing a debate. It's indisputably evident that very strong wordings, and it's tone appropriate because it's a debate. Also, it's fancy, more advanced wordings. You could also say, to sum up, it's an undeniable fact that. So you can see the strong language used here. First of all, it's advanced words, so you get your mark for vocabulary. But it's also strong language, not only in terms of the words that are being used, but you have to have an assertive tone, more aggressive tone in this question, as if you were a politician or a debater. So that is what this kind of question requires, a little bit of that extra emphasis to get your point across. So you want to be a little angry here, basically. Okay, let's have a look at the template. The dialogue surrounding the topic of, that's your start, and here you kind of rephrase the question of whether actors and singers should be paid the same as day-to-day workers is a very thought-provoking. And you can use here multiple things, thought-provoking, baffling, confounding. Now you're going to use the opinion. I am firmly persuaded that their payment should favor the day-to-day workers more. That's your opinion. And you have basically a general sentence and an opinion sentence right after. That's your introduction. Please keep it like this, short and simple. Don't talk too much here in terms of the intro. It's a common mistake and people waste time here. Your main content should be the 3 points. So you get to your first point. To begin with, it can be said, and again, that passive voice, which you should do as much as possible to keep a combination, can be said that the average worker spends not only more time daily, but also in terms of a lifetime. The average worker works until 67, while actors and singers work much lesser. More hours should equal more pay since the effort matters. Point 1, and again, you can see we're not in every point, we're just focused on one point and expanding that. We don't say multiple things in one point. We fully define it and then we move to the other point. Moreover, point number 2, day-to-day workers perform essential tasks that keep society functioning, and their scale of influence and financial contributions are not comparable to those of celebrities. This is your point number 2, like they make more contributions. Additionally, so a good change, so you have 3 worded connectors, 1 worded connector, and a 1 worded connector that is an adverb. Very good combination. A fair payment system should be based on skill, effort, and the economic value of their work. When we question fairness and ethics, equality becomes a goal, which is why this discrimination against blue-collar workers needs to stop. So you have that aggression, that assertive tone, and again, you need that throughout your points. In conclusion, that's a template. It's indisputably evident that, and guys, I want you to emphasize it just like that. It's indisputably evident that, and then you continue, because you want to show that emphasis. Pay differences are not justified, considering the basic human ethical code and practical factors. One more thing is, when you're trying to emphasize, volume fluctuations are more than other questions, but also you want to really enunciate every word as much as you can. So if I am just talking to my friends, I might just say pay differences are not justified, but here I would say pay differences are not justified. So really completing each word to show that emphasis. Okay, this is more like a debate question, like an essay question. Now we're here at our final question, speaking task 8. This is very confusing because this question is different every time. So to make a template for that, we have a really good template that we'll see right here. But to make a template for that, and for me to say that you could use this 90% of the times would be wrong. This question can be different every time. In fact, there are times when I feel like I shouldn't even make a template for this one. Among all the 8 questions, this is where you can predict anything. Anything can happen. So it could be something where you see some garbage on the city streets and you have to call the city management to complain about it. It could be a picture of a dangerous animal and you want to report that to the zoo, that it has escaped the enclosure. Or it could be something like this. Here it says you're walking in your favorite park when you notice a couple engaged in some activities. This is the couple, this is the picture. Your son is confused about what they are doing. Describe the scene you see to your son so he gets an idea about their activities. And again, it's very different. So we have a little guideline here that'll help you. You start with hi, how's it going? How have you been? But again, as you can see, this does not apply with your son. You're not going to say that to your son. So before I go further, let me show you what I used here in this scenario. We start with buddy. So we're not even going to say hey, hello. You're literally walking with your son. You're not going to use that. We're going to say buddy, I've got something intriguing to share. And that second part is where you can use this. This can be used mostly 9 out of 10 times. You can use it. I've got some news, updates, something intriguing to share, and again, change it based on what you're talking about here. So I've got something intriguing to share, and then we go about the picture. Describe the scenario. As I said, we cannot make a template for this because it's always different. The picture is always going to have different things happening and a different requirement. So we'll see an answer and see how we could describe this picture in this scenario to give you an idea. But you can add this point later on where you have to add in further detail. You can use a combination of these words. You don't really have to use one of them. You can use a combination. So these words would be, what's fascinating is that, interestingly, in addition, along with that, and so on. So you could use any of these that fit the extension of the description you're trying to portray. Let's have a look at this example. So here, buddy, I've got something intriguing to share. That's how we're going to start based on the situation. Talking to our son, it's appropriate to that situation. In another situation, let me give you an example. If you are calling the police because someone has died, you're not going to say, going back to the template, hey, how's it going? Someone is dying here, right? So you would have to adjust it. Hello, I'm calling because there's an emergency. There's someone here who's running out of breath and so on, right? So make sure to adjust it. But if it fits, if in most cases, majority of the cases in part 8, you want to say a greeting like, how's it going? Or how have you been? Okay. So I've got something intriguing to share. Look over there at the couple in the park. Again, if you are walking with your son, that's what you will do. Point to the couple. The woman is holding a camera with a long lens and is carefully observing something through it. It seems like she's photographing birds or wildlife. The man is kneeling near some flowers, closely examining them while taking a picture on his phone. So you define the picture. Main elements go first, just in case you are running out of time. You get the main stuff done. What's interesting is that, and then you also have in addition. So let's go back to the template here. What's interesting, instead of fascinating, we said what's interesting is that, and we have used in addition to add another point later. So you can always use words like these in combination. What's interesting is that they appear to be nature enthusiasts who enjoy documenting their surroundings. These activities help people connect with nature. In addition, it teaches patience and creativity in capturing beautiful moments. This is an addition. This is appropriate to the situation, and you have to come up with your own concluding sentence for part 8. I'll tell you why. In this situation, we're saying, would you like to do this someday? Okay, so in this case, I'm going to ask the son, and I'm not going to say, take care, goodbye. All right, so again, don't do formulated things which don't fit the scenario. So here, that is appropriate. In case of that 911 call, I would say, can you guys please come here as soon as possible? This is urgent. In case you need help with something, let's say you're calling a car towing company, you can ask them, when can you come and pick up the car? I am just stranded here without a car right now. Something like that. So whatever is appropriate to the situation. Sometimes it's a map, for example, and you're asking for directions. At the end, you could say, can you please guide me where I have to turn next? So that really will depend on what kind of question you get in Speaking 8. It is always different. Okay? Guys, that's it for this video. You have all the templates here, all the wonderful answers in the other file. Both of them are attached in the PDFs in your resources section or within the folder, depending on how you're using this platform. But this is not the end of speaking. There's a lot more. There's a video on speaking feedback that you want to see next, and there is a video on detailed speaking tips as well as writing tips. Not just tips, that's a very general word. Those are very exam-appropriate, exam-related tips that you need to understand. It'll tackle all the problems you're facing. I can guarantee you would have some of those problems, and you'll get a better understanding of how you can improve those. Okay? So until next time, good luck.